Hey guys, today we're going to do the Evening Hourglass block. This one looks pretty straightforward, but when I really started looking at it, it's a little bit more complicated than I initially thought. So let's walk through it step by step. Come on over and join me. Hey guys, welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on PickinStitches, and today we're going to be doing the 9-inch Evening Hourglass block. This is from the Piece and Quilt Sampler. This is a quilt pattern that we've been working on kind of block by block here, a couple of them every single month. This time we're going to build 4, but each one is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to help you out with the cutting instructions so you know what to cut out and give you a couple of my tips and tricks to make things a little bit faster and easier. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this Evening Hourglass block. So we actually are going to be making 4 segments. We're going to make this segment, gosh, I'm like a kid in a candy store here. I can't get it straight. So we're going to be making each of these 4 corners. And so each of the corners is going to be slightly different. And so I wanted to make sure that we got all our cutting instructions together correctly. Now the first thing I cut out was the pieces for these green half square triangles and these 9 patches. Those are definitely not 4 patches. And so what I decided to do for these is I'm going to use my triangle on a roll again. This is the H300, I believe. It's the 3.5-inch unfinished, or the 3-inch finished size. Yeah, so they're the H300s. This seems to be a pretty common size for a lot of the fat quarter shop patterns that we get. So we're going to need 8 of these. So I'm just going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut off one of these diamond patterns. And then I don't know if I've shown you guys this before or not, but I always have a hard time seeing what's what in my drawer, so I just keep the label. I cut it out of the original packaging, and then I just secure it on with a slap bracelet. And I can put a link to those slap bracelets. They're kids' Dollar Tree items, but I found it on Amazon. And you could even write on here what they are. I just didn't want to have this married to a specific triangle on a roll paper, but that's probably not a bad idea either. Okay, so first I have the triangles on a roll paper. Then I cut out the rest of my shapes. So if you're wanting to cut out everything at the same time, this is kind of my cut list. So for the background fabric, I cut 12. For each of the colored blocks, I cut 2 of each. And don't let this confuse you. I am deviating from the pattern a little bit here. I did not buy the kit from Fat Quarter Shop. I just bought a half-yard bundle. And so I didn't have this Bella Solid that they had included. So I actually pulled this out of Blueberry Delight. I had some left over from the Pettifor quilt along that we did last fall. Okay, and then as far as cutting differently, I cut out the green. I cut out a big 8 by 8 inch square, and that's what's going to go with my triangles on a roll paper. And then also for the little 4 patch that we're going to do in each block, I'm going to just go ahead and strip piece those. So I have one of these strips paired with white. Or if you're doing the dot, you know, you would do the white on white dot. So one of them paired with your background fabric, and then one of them paired with that color fabric. And again, this for me is the fabric that I did not have out of this collection. So I cut these 2 inches by 8 inches so that I can sew the whole thing together, and then we'll be able to cut them apart and get all of our blocks that we're going to need. So this was the entire cut list for what I cut out to get ready to make these 4 blocks. Okay, so for starters, I always usually end up starting with my triangles on a roll or triangle paper. So I'm going to make sure that I've got right sides together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this on. And I actually cut this a little bit bigger than I needed to. You could probably go with 7 by 7. I blame it on the kids. I must have been distracted when I was cutting it this morning. Integrated my new little house pins from Fat Quarter Shop into my bundle here. I don't know, I think I may separate them out because they don't all match. I've got like yellow and pink and blue and green and red. It's a rainbow. Okay, So you're going to drop your stitch length. And if you wanted to use those needles that came in our kit this month, that wouldn't be a bad idea as well. Those nine needles are pretty nice. 90 needles, or I think they're 14s. Okay, so we're going to just sew down all of the dotted lines on all of these sides. You guys don't think I should have 5,000 stitches per minute on this part? This part is where I go pedal to the metal. So when I sit at that other machine over there, that one only does 1,050 stitches per minute. This guy does 1,500, so I can definitely feel the difference. I don't generally sew very many fast things over there. Usually I'm just working on something that needs different than a straight stitch, but occasionally this one's been in the shop and I find myself a little bit flustered. Okay, so these are what we're going to make our 4 patches with. And so first I'm just going to strip piece them. And again, everything here is going to be just that straight 1/4 inch seam. You want to make sure that you know your machine or you have a really good 1/4 inch foot. This is actually a 6mm foot that came with mine, so I know that, and that's why I usually sew a little bit short of the foot there. So we had the color plus the green, and then this is going to be just our background plus the green. Okay, now we'll go press and cut a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut around the outside edges. And again, I did leave these a little bit longer. I think I'd recommend if you're going to cut these out doing like a 7-inch. But I was trying to help with homework and reading and math and doing my own math. Sometimes that doesn't work out so well. Okay, so now we got all 4 sides cut off. We're going to cut right down the middle. Kind of push that with my ruler because I didn't want to cut the corner off. A little bit of the corner would have been okay, but not too much. And now we'll just pull off all our perforated paper. Again, if you just fold that back once, it usually comes off quite easily. Sometimes I don't even bother to fold it. If you drop your stitch length really short, it comes off really easily. The only problem is that if you stitch something wrong, it's pretty much impossible to rip that seam, and you're just going to have more fabric and start over. And we all hate to waste fabric, but that's just the nature of the beast. But I feel like these triangles make mine so much more accurate. I say so much more accurate. It means that it's a little bit less painful to sew it. I'm not on the edge of my seat at every moment, making sure everything is exactly perfect. Okay. We'll be right back to press. Make sure I don't throw any of my good ones away. Okay, I am going to go ahead and press these open, so it doesn't matter which side you press to first. I'm just going to press them one way, snip off the dog ears, and then I'll press them open. Okay, so we'll just snip off all our dog ears. And you can do this with a rotary cutter too. I just find that it's easier just to grab a quick pair of scissors and snip it up. Someone asked me in my earlier videos on my Oliso iron why I stand it up sometimes. I don't always stand it up. A lot of times I end up in my sewing room for several hours and I'm kind of intermittently using the iron, and so I do leave it on for really lengthy periods of time while I'm in here. I have it attached to the same plug as the light switch. So if I leave the room and turn off the light, my iron always turns off, even if, I'm not counting on the automatic timer that's in there. Even though there is one, I don't want to have a fire on my hands. But I have noticed if I'm in here all day that I get dark spots on my mat, or I can even like see the silicone that it sits on sometimes, that'll start to kind of like raise up because it's got so much heat in it. And so if I'm going to be here for a long time ironing, then no big deal. But if I'm going to walk away for a while, I just always stand it up. I don't know. You probably don't have to do that, but that's what I do. Okay, so now we're just going to press these open. And the beauty is they've cooled off enough. I shouldn't be burning my hand on that seam. We'll throw a clapper on that for a minute. I'm just going to move those off to the side. All right, so on these are our strip pieces here, and I'm just going to press these open. So first I'm going to press them, doesn't really matter, to one side. So I'm going to press to the dark side because that's a habit. Did you guys see my dark side, or my May the 4th be with you t-shirt that I recently got? I'm kind of excited about that. Our family is a little bit dorkish for Star Wars, and it combines sewing and Star Wars, which I think is great for us. Okay, so then I'm going to press these open because these are going to be kind of small 4 patches, and I want to just, that's still hot, minimize the bulkiness of the seam. Okay, so we'll put a clapper, if I could iron it right. Put a clapper on that one, and then I'll iron this one. And we'll throw a clapper there. Okay. So we'll let that sit for just a second, and then I'll come right back with our cutting mat. So now we're going to cut these into 2-inch sections. So I'm just going to line up this center line with my ruler. I'm going to get a smaller ruler. You can always cut things with a larger ruler. I just find that it's more unwieldy. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just trim up the tiniest bit off that block. It's just needing a little haircut. Okay. And I probably could have made these strips a little bit longer just to have a little bit of extra wiggle room, but I think I cut them pretty close to 8. So yes, okay. Not 3 inches. I'd have to start over. Okay, and now we're going to alternate these. So we don't want to do them this way. We want to make them alternate. And so each pair is going to have one off-white and one background fabric. And so if you did the kit, yours is probably going to be a bit darker on this other corner. So we're going to come sew all 4 of those down. So I have one stack of my whites background over here, and then my darker on this side, my darker background up, my white is down, either way, just so that you have them alternating, and then you can just pick them up and flip them together as you're going through. And I'm just going to chain piece these. We have this one seam to line up. So if you want to throw a pin in it, you may. I may just throw one just to hold it steady. Nothing you love more than opening it up and finding that you didn't like the way that patch came together. And then be sure you've adjusted your stitch length back up. Let's take a look at that before we get too far down the path. So then we have our little 4 patch, and I think that's going to be perfect. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just chain piece the rest of these. And these probably would have been easier to nest, but I was just a little concerned about them getting bulky on us. Now, I don't sew over pins, and I know there's kind of a debate about that. I know quite a few people who do. They have the really small pins, they slow down for pins. I probably, in my early sewing days, somebody said you could sew over pins, and I said, oh, perfect. And I probably went way too fast and probably had the wrong pins, and it scared me half to death when my needle hit it. So I don't, but do you sew over your needles or pins rather? Have you ever had a bad experience while sewing over your needles or pins? I don't know. I'm always sewing with my glasses on. I think eyes are really important. And I don't want to break my machine for sure, but I can't replace my eyes. Now that being said, when I'm basting on the long arm and I'm going really slow and I've got, 1-inch stitches, I'm not so worried about those. All right, let's go press these guys open. Okay, so now we're just going to cut these apart, set our seams, and press them open. Oops. I see a stitch I flipped a seam on. I'm just going to fix that real quick. Okay, I fixed that seam that I flipped on the back. So now we'll just set our seams, and then we're going to press them all 4 open. So first I'm going to press them to one side. And then we'll press them open. Okay, I'm going to let these sit under the clapper for just a minute, and then we'll organize them on our design boards. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can squeeze these 2 in on one board. This may be a disaster though. We're going to see. So our opposite corners of the pattern are going to be the same blocks. We're going to make 2 of this block, and then we're going to make 2 of the other blocks. So I'm going to piece together here these 2 blocks. So first we're going to take our polka dot. Actually, no, I'm not going to have enough room for that. We'll just make 1. Okay. So let's not make things confusing. So we'll have our polka dot, and then we'll have our flower. Oops. And then we're going to have one of our half square triangles with the green side down. Then we're going to have one of our fun 4 patches with the darker color up. Then we're going to have the smallest floral here. And another half square triangle facing towards the middle. So all of our green pieces should be touching. And then we're going to need 3 of our background squares. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead.
All right, sorry to interrupt your regularly programmed schedule here, but I have a little blooper. So I'm going to make this correction later in the video, but I wanted to point it out to you guys so you didn't make the same mistake that I did. Every quadrant of this block is different. So the way the Fat Quarter Shop wrote it up, if you're following them exactly, is not even to have these 2 centers be diagonal like that. In the process of correcting my block, I had 2 that were diagonal and I actually liked it, so I left it. But you may not want to make it with this 4 patch exactly like mine, because that's going to be a little slightly different than what the Fat Quarter Shop's is. If you want to look at their pattern page and really get a close-up in fact, I can even add some close-up pictures of this for you guys because it does show that specifically. I just kind of jumped the gun and thought I could go 2 opposite ones that were exactly the same and switch and do the other diagonal. So be careful as you're doing this block, and I will let you get back to your regularly scheduled program.
Go ahead and build out our second one now that we kind of know what we're doing. Get my other 2 background squares. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. My diagonal block. My 2 half square triangles pointed towards the middle. And then the 3 that are going to be different are here. So we have our floral, our dot, and our flower. So we're going to take these over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to chain piece these. And the way I generally chain piece is I'm going to sew this row onto this row. And then when I come back and hold it open, then I'm going to put this row on last. So I'm going to do that for both sets. Okay, so I'm going to take this row and put it directly onto this row. So I'm kind of doing a little different. I usually like to start from that middle row over. And I'm just going to sew all the way down. Middle row onto the left-hand row. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and break thread, put it back on my design board, flip them open, make sure you like them still. And then I'm going to pick this one up and flip it onto this one. Now, because moving it from the design board to the machine, these are chain piece, I typically will grab some Wonder Clips or some pins and just clip them on so that they're easier to deal with. Oopsie. You know, it wouldn't be a video if I didn't drop something. All right. I didn't even need to do that top one. I could have held it as I moved it over, but that's okay. Okay, so now when I bring it over to the machine, these three pieces are going to stay together. Okay, so that's one. Now we're going to do the other one, and then we will go press them both. And these design boards just make it easy to move in and out of your spaces. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this row, flip it onto here, and sew them. Now, if you don't want to put it back on the design board at this point, if you can keep it straight, you can just grab your next piece as you get to it. These are pretty simple pieces. We don't have to pin anything. So I'm just going to reach over and grab that top one and flip it over. So that's an option too, if you're not worried about getting it mixed up. So I'm going to take this one, make sure that my seam is still got them pushed this way, and then that way I can just flip it open and put the next piece on. All right, let's go press these. Okay, so first we set our seams, just like always, and then the pattern has these nesting. So we're going to press the 4 patch out, and we're going to press the half square triangles in. So I hope that makes sense. So I just like to flip them over. So on the half square triangle, those are going to go in. This one's going to go in. Then my 4 patch is going to go out. And then my half square triangle is going to go in. And this single piece is going to go in. And then we'll put a clapper on that and get the other one ready. Okay, and while we're letting those sit under the clapper, we can go ahead and build our other block. So these are going to be our opposite corners on the other side. And we're going to do green to the inside, just like the last set. And then our brownish color facing up. You like the way I said that? Brownish. Okay. And we're going to need the fig floral, the vine, and our brownish. Oops, I took our paper away. Okay, so then we're going to have our brownish here, and our vines, and our blue flower. And then we've got our 3 background fabrics. 1, 2, 3, and now we'll set up our other one. So again, these design boards are definitely not mandatory, but they just help me keep my brain straight. And then when I head over to the machine, I've got everything I need, and it's all in order. So while those are still under the other clapper, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to flip this row over and sew it on, and then this row on, and I'll do that for both pieces. Okay, so we'll go ahead and sew this one on. I'm just going to flip it over onto this side and sew it down. So you don't have to clip that last one because you're still holding it. But if you want to clip it, you certainly can. Okay, one more block, guys. Okay guys, I will go press these two and get the other ones out from under the clappers and we'll sew them. Okay guys, I always throw my stuff back on the design board because I want to make sure that I like the way it's oriented. And I put these two together. I think they look great. But then I looked back at our pattern. Let's see if I can hold three. It's like holding a deck of cards. So on our pattern, when all four of our blocks are going to go together, one block is going to have white at the top and one block is going to have white at the bottom. So that means when I swing this one around to be the top corner, now this print is going to be upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and rip that and just flip this one block and meet you guys back here. And I'll insert like a little bit earlier in the video so you know when to fix it before you make the same mistake I did. And not that it's a huge deal. You know, you don't have to change it. You don't have to have all of them directionally exactly perfect. But since I saw it and it's still early enough on, I'm going to go ahead and fix it. And honestly, you wouldn't be watching a channel called PickinStitches if we didn't pick a few, right? So it's a pretty fast and easy fix. I'm not gonna shortchange us. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it out on the design board just to make sure I get it right. So now I'm gonna have, I need a second stand for my lap. Okay. Now I'm going to have the white in the top corner and the polka dot. Oh, you know what? The polka dot and this one need to switch too. See, what would we do without design boards? Probably not rip as many stitches. Okay, so I've got my white on the outside and I'm going to get my diagonal piece. So my diagonal piece will face towards the middle. And then next to that, I'm going to have the floral. Then I'm going to have my flowers oriented up and my polka dots in the middle. So I'm going to go back and put those two together and then this whole row, and then I'm going to sew it together. Okay, so now that we've got that fixed, I can go ahead and on both pieces, I'm just going to sew each row together. Except I'm not going to do it like that. Look at me, see? I hope you guys giggle with me at this and you're not like, this lady really is crazy. Okay. Now for these, our seams really should nest. If they're not nesting well, then I would definitely pin these. But if they're nesting well, you should be okay. But as always, if you prefer to pin, please do. Okay, sanity check. Looks good so far, but I'm kind of scared of myself right now. Okay, so I'm going to flip this one up. Ah. Okay, did I lose my mind? Nope, I didn't lose my mind. Yay! Okay, one down. We've got 3 more to go. Okay, so this will be easy because these are all connected, and I can just take them to the table of my sewing machine. They're nesting. Okay, I still have the other 2 under the clappers, so I'll go grab those. All right, and since these are chained together, I don't have anything directional. I know I'm in a good spot. I'm just going to bring them over and not worry about the design board and sew them together. They're nesting, and off we go. And now we press. Set the seams and then press to the outside. And then we'll throw our clappers on it. I need to double check the pattern. I know that our diagram shows this as 4 blocks all connected, but I wonder as we assemble the entire quilt, is it going to impede us to have these 4 connected? If not, I'll go ahead and film the connecting process. The clappers are too long, they're in the way. Maybe if I come this way. There we go. Where there's a will, there's a way. And something to bump. Okay. Y'all can share. And then I'll go ahead and press the other 2 and meet you guys back here.
Okay guys, I did look at the pattern in the book, and when we go to piece our whole sampler quilt together, it does actually have these top 2 blocks pieced together in a row with other items before it's connected to the bottom row. So I bet you could get away with piecing it all together and just moving on, but I want to give everybody as close as I can to the directions in the book. And you know, I kind of feel like today I already deviated enough. So we're gonna... Okay guys, that is a wrap on this block for today. This is the Piece and Quilt sampler. We're working out of this book. So this is out of the Celebrates with Quilts book. This is the 9-inch Evening Hourglass block. We made 4. And if you look at the pattern in the book, it is amazing to me. It looks nothing like this block. It just shows you how much diversity you can get by coloring your items differently and pairing a couple of the blocks together. That's part of what I love about quilting, is you can get so many different looks with the same block just rearranged. So if you enjoy watching these videos and you enjoy some of my unboxing stuff, it would help me out absolutely if you would like and subscribe. If you know of any other quilters that maybe need to hear about my channel, I would love it if you would share it. And until then, I will see you guys next time.